What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the debut album by rapper Bubba Sparxxx. Basically, this product is called Dark Days, Bright Nights, and it came out in the fall of 2001. Now, this is a particular trendy set off of an album here just because this is the kickoff of Bubba Sparxxx as far as this pitch can happen. He had a hit debut single right off the bat called Ugly. This particular album is notable because it's produced by Timbaland, who was pretty large in like the early 2000s, pitches like that. He had a number of streaks that he particularly got to, and Bubba Sparxxx was one of these fellas that he helped produce for and really got put on the scene as far as this pitch can happen. Now, it's just within the pitch as far as saying Bubba Sparxxx had a pretty good 2000s decade within some of those type pitches. He always managed to get at least one or two hits off of his albums throughout those particular fairs, but there's a lot of folks that feel like this might be one of Bubba Sparxxx's best albums just within the pitch. I feel like the commotion is kind of similar to Eminem, where folks think that the Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP are his best ones. It's kind of the commotion that there's just like I'd seen Bubba Sparxxx say in like an interview or on a hip hop website, something like that, they said that this particular album, Dark Days, Bright Nights, was more popular in like the college scene, frat scene, kind of fraternity type scene pitches like that, just some of those more type moments just within the local type fair. And this definitely does have a lot of good crunk numbers on here, but it does it in a more country fried type sense. It's just kind of the aspect that the Timbaland production, which on Deliverance is a little bit more country fried, a little bit more outback, not so much amidst like house parties and more redcup type music where there's going to be more commotion. This one probably has more social moments on here. It's a little bit more amidst the festivities, where Deliverance is a little bit more outback. And then I would say that The Charm from 2006 is a little bit more urban within a sense, has more nightclub type songs and a more typical kind of city type sense, like Miss New Booty and Heated Up, some of those type ones. But this particular one is just real. I agree with Bubba Sparxxx when it particularly does have like the college hop type ones, just a lot of local noise. Pretty much is a good concept of getting tore up within some of these type moments, almost to a seedy type sense is the concept of the way it happens. It's not seedy in terms of just like the aspect of the quality and pitches like that, but just kind of the concept that it does have like, there's a little bit of makeshift on here within some of these type of pitches, within the concept of like some songs like the title track Dark Days, Bright Nights, some of these type of ones that just have the aspect to like the relative makeshift relief of just like the pitch behind it, but it's not really within the pitch of having, it's kind of like the product of the album title talking about Dark Days, Bright Nights. So it definitely has the concept of it has some conduit type moments for just the fair, just like some errands and in between type moments, hitting up a bell, some of those particular type pitches, just from the aspect of it, getting things laced as far as those pitches can happen. I look at it as just a good conduct of that particular fair, basically going from probably about 3:45 p.m. to anywhere, to about 1, 2, 3 in the morning, some of those type pitches. It's really a good product of just something to kind of have within the commotion, and just typical kind of just like, I would almost say kind of suburban, kind of romping type music within a pitch. I mean, this album is country. It does it within a country twang about it. It's basically like just getting Eminem in like a country sense. I do feel like, another thing Bubba Sparxxx has said was he felt like if he had continued with albums like this, he could have been like the Eminem of like country music or country rap as far as those fairs are going to happen. That definitely has some aspects on here as far as those fairs are going to happen. It's kind of the pitch of like romping type music, just within the aspect as far as saying that you just get some of these particular type fairs that just like good, get the concepts of some good affluence. There were at least 3 songs that got some radio airplay off this project, and this album did go gold, so it had a decent kind of social festivity. I kind of thought that The Charm went gold as too. I feel like Miss New Booty was a huge enough song that did about as good as Ugly did. Pretty much two of Bubba Sparxxx's best is Ugly and Miss New Booty is within the pitch, but this particular album probably has more critical reception about it. For some reason, it's this kind of aspect that, I mean, this album's going to get a 10 out of 10. I recommend basically 13 and a half songs out of 16 on here, so it's a good type pitch. That's just kind of the concept that it is, just within the aspect of being a classic here. I do recommend this album. Now, I want to say that back in 2022 when I reviewed The Charm, I don't remember what I gave that album. I don't know if I gave it a 10, but it did have a lot of gems on there. Deliverance was good, but I do think this is better than Deliverance. It's just a little bit more uppity and just has a little bit more jive about it, a little bit more liveliness, just an aspect like the fierce factor, and just probably an album that you could really get crunk to and have some pretty festive times in terms of like a more romping type sense, just more amidst like the commotion, where it's kind of it has like the country flavor of, where there would be kind of outback type things, where it is a little bit more rural within a sense, but it's not quite as full bound amidst like out in the hills like Deliverance kind of is. So it's just a little bit more just kind of town hop type music and just more pitches like that, more so than the full bound discs out where you're gonna light fireworks and some of those type pitches or pitches like that. I'd say this is kind of the concept. But I look after it, you wouldn't be able to tell that by the album cover, but it's just kind of within the pitch. Of just saying it's just the pitch behind. But this is, I mean, for 2001, this is definitely pretty festive and ferocious. I just gotta say it's actually surprising. This is, in my opinion, I enjoyed this album better in certain senses. I mean, Ludacris's Word of Mouth had better hit singles and more recognizable, definitely more commercial appeal, but this, in terms of like the overall impact and how many boilers it has, this might be the better one. This is definitely probably, I'd say, one of the best rap albums out of 2001, along with like T.I.'s I'm Serious, maybe Lil Jon's Put Your Hood Up, some of those type ones, but this is just a good look overall. This is pretty much like a banner country rap album to say on top of that. Just did a lot just within the pitch behind. I can't think of too many country rap folks that were kind of around apart from maybe Kid Rock and Everlast, some of those type folks. Everlast, Whitey Ford Sings the Blues is pretty good within that pitch, but that wasn't as much rap as much as it was this kind of country singing kind of, just more similar to Kid Rock pitches like that with what he was kind of doing. But this is a country rap album that kind of is like a subgenre. It was kind of one of the ones that was a foothold for kind of kicking that off, and it's pretty banner within a sense. Now, depending upon who you ask, like, once again, this album went gold, so it doesn't have like the commercial aspect of really where it's going to be like, every last person's gonna know about it, but within the aspect, I think it's kind of like a cult album. That's kind of the pitch. When you think of more folks in a rural sense, they probably say for country rap, it definitely is probably one that's like, yeah, that's like a notable kind of banner one, like an Eminem album or a Dr. Dre album or a Snoop Dogg album, something like that. So it's just the pitch, it did it. So I have to say. There are two singles off this project, one of which is pretty much continues to be one of Bubba Sparxx's biggest songs and a continued highlight, and that's Ugly. Real nice one here. Simple kind of breadwinner within those pitches, like a jangled kind of country fried house party kickoff to just get real bucking like a rural sense. I'd have to say just a Redhot type song to be able to get here. So it's just one pitch as far as saying this outback kind of noise. This one has more energy than this particular song has more energy than like the Deliverance album, but it's basically, it's not as urban as like the Charm, so it's just kind of a pitch. If you come to this album from the Charm, if you find Bubba Sparxxx with like Miss New Booty and Heated Up, some of those type songs, then you come to this particular album. It's just the actual aspect that most of the time Bubba Sparxxx kind of delivers country rap. I feel like it was kind of a difference from the norm with his 2006 album and a little bit of like his 2009 album that I reviewed back in the day, which I forget what that one's called, but it had like She Got Me Like Aw Shit on there. It's pretty good. I mean, I've reviewed, there's a lot more of Bubba Sparxxx, to think, for folks who don't know, is Full Bound, because Bubba Sparxxx didn't really put out his next true album until 2013 from 2006. He did drop a series of projects that are kind of low-key, like a mixtape and a 2009 compilation album, some of those type pitches where he put on a bunch of artists. I have all those in the Bubba Sparxxx playlist. I would just recommend checking that out. I pretty much have reviewed every Bubba Sparxxx project between 2001. I pretty much have reviewed every Bubba Sparxxx album now between 2001 and 2013, so it's within the pitch of getting to some of those. But yeah, Ugly is just a country fried type one that this is more than is the country type one within a sense of this. Getting rowdy pitches like that is kind of a banner type one. Pretty signature to like country rap type style. Good kickoff be able to have for some of that, just an early 2000s classic within those pitches. Real nice tone. Now, Lovely was the follow-up single. This was kind of like more just on like the hip-hop R&B charts only as far as this pitch can happen, but it is a nice kind of follow-up single to kind of get within those pitches, at least a good attempt to have it. But this album is still a classic within the pitch, but it's just not as recognizable, but it's a follow-up single if you just within the pitch and getting some more casualness. So it had relative kind of airplay, and then I'll also talk about Regardless, which apparently had some airplay as well, which probably was like a attempted third single, something like that, but just kind of the concept of just a minor kind of kickoff. But Lovely is like an in-between kind of evening slag to kind of get here, just a drowsy kind of frustrating move around within some of those type pitches, just kind of frustration and just like the 4 o'clock p.m. just scuzziness, just within the aspect of just like figuring out what's going to happen, some of those type pitches, just relative, just this product of just the day that's just kind of there, and just the typical type conduct of this usual slag about it. Just grab supplies, I feel like, about this song, get some good stuff, get like lighters and Swisher type fare, just snack run, gas station run type pitch, just stock up some of those type pitches. Good song to saunter to as far as what's first going to happen. So there are some sauntering songs on here. There is at least another one, like Betty Betty is pretty similar to that. There are some ones within some of those type pitches that have the in-between type moments of this kind of en route of things. There's actually one I don't recommend on here that has a little bit of that extra commerce kind of fare as well, and that would be Open Wide. That one just felt more extra than the concept of how much I would listen to it, but there's just some moments for kind of like the motions of this, kind of the in-between type fashions of just figuring out whether it is just going on grocery runs or getting snacks or supplies pitches like that, or there is certain senses, not every single one is primer for a night venue and pitches like that, or a house party, something into that relative fair, but it's just kind of the moments of this kind of the point A to point B type projects of just having not so much where there's like something like a drop kind of in mind every single time. So it's just kind of product if you do if it's just a random Tuesday where you're not gonna get tore up today, something like that, but you do have some stuff to do. It's just kind of pitch for some of those type moments. Just for the fair, so it's just kind of concept some of that type moment. But good, just still, I would treat it as just like a saunter type song to just pick up, like Crown Royal, something like that. Good type pitch for some of those type fairs. And then regardless is a nice one just within the pitch of this getting like minor kind of buzz airplay. Now this is an almost song for me. When I said 13 and a half out of 16, this is the almost song. So it's just within the pitch. I like this song. It was kind of haphazard. It's like a riled kind of shindig white noise to kind of get here. Just buzz vibes definitely about this song. It's hitting, but just not as emphatic within the pitch as how it did it. This is this typical kind of pounding noise. Feels a little bit retro in a sense, not quite boom bap, but just with the pitch, it just like one of those type ones. This feels like the song "Baby Got Back" by Sir Mix-a-Lot, one of those typical kind of just staccato type productions, which is interesting. Way out in 2001, it's basically I would just treat it as like white noise. I mean, it has some effectualness, it has some aspects of being pretty relatively hitting within the pitch as far as that particular concept is. It's there for like the product of it, but it's probably one to more just be stoned to and just kind of zone out to more so than the pitch of like the actual rumble of like the full bound craze behind it. It's not a bad song. It's just kind of the pitch that just the immediacy factor is just not as full bound high, but it just has that particular noise. I mean, there's plenty. Like I said, there's plenty of social type moments on here. Some of these type ones, like Infected's a good one. Get Right's a good one. Twerk a Little's a good one. Some of these type pitches that the moments on here, the spice of it. Bubba Talk's a real nice one. Some of these type pitches, just being able to have for some of these fairs is just a product of some of these type moments to kind of get towards like the aspect of soirees as far as those pitch can happen. So it's good type flair just in the pitch behind it. Yeah, but there's a lot of good Timbaland productions on here. Some of these type pitches, he did pretty good job with this particular fair. It's unfortunate. I mean, I think Timbaland needs to work with Bubba Sparxxx again. It's kind of within the pitch. I mean, nowadays Bubba Sparxxx is still putting out albums, but the commercial aspect is just kind of the fair that I don't know, Bubba Sparxxx is always kind of an alternative rap type dude within a pitch. I mean, he had the country rap subgenre, which did chart in 2001. He had the charting hits in 2006, but it's just kind of the fair that it just doesn't feel like there's terribly like a country rap type charts. I mean, there kind of is when I think of like folks like Colt Ford and some of those type of people. They do have charting singles on the occasion. Maybe it just gets designated to the country charts, but it's just within pitch. That's kind of the concept. But Bubba Sparxxx does have further hit albums. I need to get to his 2014 album, some of these type pitches to see about the quality of some of those type ones. But yeah, classic here, 10 out of 10. The only two songs I don't recommend on here would just be All the Same and then Open Wide, which basically All the Same is just kind of like a neighborhood kind of commerce just with the pitch behind it, but it's just a little bit more lazy within the pitch. I mean, this is like more typical kind of country rap in a more Leonard Skinner type fashion. Some of that particular type fair, just a little bit more, just a little bit more, has a little bit more homely type fashion, which is kind of a waste of a Sleepy Brown feature because I was expecting like the Sleepy Brown to like the way he was and way he moved by Big Boy. Some of those type pitches, just one of those type hooks, or helping out with Ludacris on like Blueberry Yum Yum, some of those type pitches, but it just wasn't as affluent, kind of wasted and organized noise beat as well within some of those type pitches. They do have a couple of these on here. The Bubba Sparxxx song he named after himself hits a little bit better by organized noise, but it's just in the pitch, so I didn't recommend All the Same. Then Open Wide was just kind of a commerce type one in an evening type sense. This one's just kind of some extra time within the pitch. It's kind of the product of this, like kind of like songs like I was saying, like Lovely and like songs like Lovely and Well Water and Dark Days, Bright Nights, some of those type pitches. Just kind of like Rumination, just kind of on the road and in transit as far as those pitches can happen. But Open Wide just didn't hit as heavily within the pitch behind it. Just kind of the concept of this, like the product of listening to some of these type moments, just the after effect of whether or not it really just didn't see the commonness of the after effects of how the frequency of I would listen to it. It's just kind of pitch. I mean, it's just one of those ones that kind of just be amidst like the day or evening type fair, but it's just within the pitch of just having the rumination. But it just feels like slag type moments that just weren't as hitting, I'd have to say. But yeah, there's plenty of good gems on here. I do like some of these rumination type songs within the pitch. It does have some extra after effects. It just kind of, like the album says, Dark Days, Bright Nights, the product of just some of these dark days, which is kind of, it actually is pretty dark for like the concept. Some of these brooding type ones, like this is different from some of the styles that were kind of going on. I can't think of too many just kind of murky kind of contemplation for the most part. Like even like some country rap type folks like Everlast and Kid Rock weren't really doing this as full bounce. It just has that murky type flair, something like Eminem would kind of do with like a song like Kim, just without the crazy type fashion. Just kind of some dark type fashions, just kind of the pitch, but it just it's really just it's interesting because it's not emo rap, but it is just kind of like spare thoughts of just kind of having like a foul kind of day where it just you just have some afterthoughts and just extra time to kind of just ponder or like to just have pondering moments as far as what's supposed to happen. So that's like well water, which is a good type pitch here. Like this one's like a day after hours, kind of brooding. I'd have to say to smoke a couple, definitely some makeshift relief. I'd have to say just typical day kind of slide within some of those type fares. So it's good type pitch, just the particular aspects of it. It's kind of some extra time, kind of conduit type moments that are not designated. I mean, it's just kind of the makeshift relief, just kind of the product of not. And it doesn't feel like so much like it doesn't feel so much like work was a bitch. It just kind of feels more personal life. It doesn't feel like so much of like the concept of being kind of brooding because work was a bitch, something like that. It just feels like more personal life type appeals within the pitch behind it. Just kind of aspect of this, something that just kind of has like the after effect of dismantlement, something within the pitch behind it. But this is good one to smoke a couple to. It's good product of this. Good product of this musing, having the after effect of this like moments for these kind of dolo moments as far as what's first gonna happen. Another one like that is the title track Dark Days, Bright Nights. This is like brooding moments here, good song to ruminate and smoke one too. Pretty deep, but there's still enjoyment about this one. So yeah, Dark Days, Bright Nights is just another brooding type one, this one the pitch. But yeah, this one is not quite as like morose as like Well Water. It's just from the pitch as far as saying it's just the deep type song was just the pitch of this. Probably the emphasis of just realizing the enjoyment that you're having more so than the full boundness of just kind of like the contemplative really kind of being in a foul type mood. So it's just kind of the concept of this having just like extra characters, some of those type pitches that just not just strictly kind of it's just not tacky and shallow just to miss that aspect. It's not like having full blown TGIF type moments. It's shallow. It's just from the pitch just having extra moments to kind of contemplate things and just reflect some of those type fares. So it's a good type pitch for that. Take them to the waters of quality ones, like a night strolling kind of snack run outings to kind of get here. Good pitch for some of those type fares. Taco Bell, definitely I'd say some of those type pitches. Just neighborhood type smokes within pitches like that. Just smoking on the way home. Some of those type pitches. Just like that typical out type fare. Just the product of that. Pretty much in like a 3-6 Mafia type fashion. Just not as paranoia as much about it. Just not quite as gnarled within the pitch as far as those aspects can happen. Just typical type fare. Just even extra type fare like going to like a DVD shop, something like that. Getting like a movie like Minority Report. Even like some further kind of extra type fare of hitting up like a DVD shop, picking up like a movie like Minority Report, some of those type pitches within the fare behind it. Just kind of spare type moments that just like neighborhood type jaunts pitches like that. Good type product, just being stoned as hell and like the after effect of the night wind. Good type pitch for that. There's some other ones on here like Infected's a real nice one. It's like a murky kind of country fried demon time primer to kind of get within these aspects. Definitely probably an album highlight I'd have to say here. Just night getting started definitely within some of those type pitches. Just good song for feeling right as far as what's going to happen. So getting the beers, smokage in your system, some of those particular type products is good kickoff for some of that product. Definitely, I mean, the thing about this song is it's kind of murky within the sense. It's kind of the pitch. It's not really amidst like the craze like Ugly and Get Right, some of those type ones, but it's just kind of one where you know it's about to be a good time for like the next 7, 8, 9 hours as far as those pitches can have them. Good one to listen to like 6:30, 6:45 where tasks are done, some of those type pitches, but it's just kind of concept you have like the extra moments that just like, yep, this is going to be fun as far as those pitches can have. So it's good type fare. I would say Bubba Sparxxx is a good type song here. It's like some evening commerce that I'd say just busybody kind of blow off steam within some of those type pitches, just typical kind of makeshift afters as far as those pitches can happen. Yeah, the song Bubba Sparxxx is just like some evening traffic pitches like that. Just kind of the concept of maybe just not so much a horror day, but just kind of the concept of just that frustration kind of aspects within it. Just kind of the fare behind that. Just kind of typical kind of moments for like 5:45 pitches like that. Just kind of the cruise around and just figure out some moments as far as the next few, as far as the pitch behind, as far as those fares going to happen. I would say the first What You Call It's a nice one as well. It's like an out in the wind kind of afterthoughts that I had to say here. Just some night errands, definitely like a box of beer and primers for that sort of pitch as far as those first happen. So one of those type ones that kind of gets like a kick off. So this basic pitch is like that. This one's a little bit mellower within the pitch, but still some good excitement for realizing kind of like I would say it's pretty similar to Infected, just the concept of getting supplies, box of beer, some of that type fare, but just without the concept of like the murkiness, not quite as much. Like I mean, I feel like Infected is just a little bit more exhilarating, but I think the first it's just kind of a primer that this is kind of more gives you goosebumps within the pitch because it's just the product of this getting some stuff done. Was this kind of the concept of this more amidst like the night wind as far as this first kind of maybe just dolo type stuff before getting ready to the shindig. I feel like Infected is more amidst like the shindig and like the early moments, but it's probably before you're right there. Just kind of the product of just getting the stuff that's going to be at that particular setting. So it's just good type pitch and just night air and some of that type fair, just like the pitch behind, just kind of conduit type moments. Some of these type ones on here, Torque a Little's the nice ones, like a pounding kind of local kickstart. I'd have to say just some motel flavor within the pitch behind, a good type energy for some of that good type stuff. Redcup type music definitely. Dance energy definitely goes along here. Good for some party favors. Bell, good for some party favors. Beezy showing up, good pitches like that. Smoke Fest going on, just a good song to get crunk to as far as this pitch happens. So there's just a series of these. A lot of these just kind of have the particular production fare. Just Timbaland really knocks out some of these. I'm glad that the production fare, for the most part, is not super common when I think of like a certain assortment of 2001 albums. It's just been the pitch that the production fare was not quite as full bound assembled, but I definitely would have to say that Timbaland did have a lot of these on here as far as this first going to happen. He was kind of a more premier type producer. He was kind of one of the ones that was like a front runner within the pitch. This was not as sketch just within the concept. I mean, Timbaland maybe wasn't as rich full bound as like the Neptunes and Dr. Dre, some of those type folks, but he definitely was a pretty premier producer out of 2001. It was just a good type pitch because this was where Timbaland wasn't in his full bound prime, but he was kind of a more weighted producer and was pumping out some good ones. So it's just the pitch as far as saying it's this good type pitch for some of this. Just getting a lot of these on here. This the social moments really has the pizzazz. You know, when you think of Timbaland productions like Move, like Roll Out, Move, when you think of quality 2001 hits that he had, like Roll Out, My Business by Ludacris, and I think he produced like a song for Missy Elliott around that time. Some of those type pitches within the fair, but just within the aspects as far as saying some good type tones. Get Right's another one within some of these aspects, just to set it off, kind of shindig noise, kind of get here, just good buzz single. I feel like goes with Ugly and Torque a Little, some of those type pitches, good song to loosen up to as far as what's first going to happen. So it's just with the pitch, and just house party type noise, just the product of some of these. That's just the concept with Get Right, goes with Ugly, Torque a Little, some of those type pitches, some of those type fairs. I would say that another nice one on here would be If It's Bumpin'. This is like a low-key kind of commotion, just late shift buzz as far as this pitch can happen. Good get crunk type tune once again, some of those type fairs. House Party Highlight, definitely a good song to frat to as far as this pitch can happen. So just from the aspects, some of that particular type noise, just Outback type fair, so in a more kind of romping type sense is good. This good rural rap type highlight for like the concept of this more beer pong kind of frat type noise within some of those type pitches. It's basically like the Mac Miller, I'd say, within a product. It wasn't as if like Bubba Sparxxx was like 21, 20. It wasn't as if Bubba Sparxxx was like 21, 22 doing this like Mac Miller back in like the Blue Slide Park type days, but it's just kind of the pitch of this being like a Blue Slide Park type album just way back in 2001 in a more rural type sense. So it kind of had those aspects, just what I have to say. And then I look after it here, like another one to recommend would be, I would say Bubba Talk is a nice one. So it's like a spicy kind of night drive kind of get within these aspects. It's good combo with Ugly and Get Right, some of those type tones. Just social, definitely. I feel like about this song, just basic kind of crunk fest within some of those type aspects. So this is definitely one, definitely a good song to have like Bella's mingle as far as this pitch can happen. Just figure out like, all right, about the gab with this chick, some of that particular type fare, just kind of the concept of getting crunk a bed, just loosening up some of that particular type fare. Friday type energy of just getting ready to pop off and bust rocks off as far as this pitch can happen. So it's just good type tone for some of that type pitch behind it. It's good aspect to really get the social flex. Definitely good hall of music within the aspect of like a crazy night. No, I think I talked about every song on here as far as this pitch can happen just in the pitch. So yeah, this album, lengthier review, but this album gets a 10 out of 10 within the pitch behind it. There's going to be some editing to do within the fair if I keep this particular part in just in the pitch. But yeah, I look after here. So 10 out of 10, 13 and a half out of 16 is a 10 out of 10 within those pitches just within the fair. I mean, regardless, is a good enough song for the most part pitch, but this kind of concept just has a little bit more of like a mild kind of learning curve within the pitch behind it. It's definitely a good white noise, but in terms of like the immediacy factors, just kind of tone. But I look after it. Social score is probably going to get like a, I would say like a 9.75. It would almost get a 10 out of 10. The impact of this album is pretty high. It's a banner kind of country rap album, definitely trend-setting pitches like that. Had some banner kind of Timbaland productions, just a big deal, and a trendsetter wave maker pitches like that. It's this kind of concept of the singles just didn't catch on as full bound. I think when people talk about like the song Ugly, that definitely has the appeal about it. But when you look for like, you say, okay, I like Ugly, but what else does this album have in terms of like something that's going to be recognizable in terms of a casual sense? It just didn't really have those moments. This kind of concept that I think within certain senses, it's not like Bubba Sparxxx was a one-hit wonder, but he might have been like a one-hit per album wonder within some of those type pitches. It's the same thing that happened with The Charm, with most people only going for it with like Miss New Booty, some of those type moments, and even Deliverance to a lesser extent, minus just the Deliverance title track as far as those pitching happens. It's just been fair, but Bubba Sparxxx would at least always get one hit. Was just kind of with the pitch. It just kind of leaves this as like a misnomer because there's plenty on here. There's plenty of good rural type moments for like frat and romping type moments, good social kind of college rock type, good social kind of college rap type noise, and just neighborhood type fairs and just red cups everywhere, Crown Royal pitches like that, just frat type noise, rural type sense within some of those aspects to really getting the commotion going. Just some good jive, and this has the aspect of a crazy type fashion, just in a more kind of just typical, this new kind of subgenre that was kicking off. Just basically like not quite as crazy as Kid Rock and not quite as outlandish as Everlast, but it's just within the pitch of being within that fashion, having some good type fare, and just a banner type album for it. So look after in terms of future, like Bubba Sparxxx has put out products. I want to say he put out an album in like 2024 or 2023, some of those type pitches. So he has a good assortment of albums. I'm gonna start getting to some of these type ones past 2014. I'm gonna definitely get to this 2014 album, some of those type pitches. But like I said, in the Bubba Sparxxx playlist, I reviewed every album he's done and product in some fashion. He's dropped the mixtape, some of those type fairs between 2001 and 2013, so it's a good type pitch. Check out that playlist to get all these type ones, but this is a classic here.